Professor Kofa, and I'm here to show you how to thread the sewing machine today. Now, we're going to have a lot more instructional videos on showing you how to use the sewing machine and providing different tips. But this is our first video that we are providing to you so that you know the first step to sewing, which is threading your sewing machine. So we're going to go ahead and get started. In order to sew, you need to have two threads. You need to have a thread coming from two areas of the sewing machine. This is called a bobbin, and this bobbin actually doesn't have a whole lot of thread. But these are the two things needed to get started with sewing on a sewing machine. Now, the way they are placed inside of a sewing machine depends on how the manufacturer decided to design the sewing machine. This sewing machine requires that you use a bobbin case. This sewing machine here requires that you use a bobbin, but it doesn't have a case, and it's placed inside the machine directly. And let's go ahead and place our thread here, and basically the shape that you take from threading your bobbin is always going to be a triangulation or triangle shape. It's going to come from here to a point here and to your bobbin winder. Now on that machine, it doesn't have this extra step because like you stated, this is towards the back, so this is to help align, the thread. So what we're going to do is take our thread and place it right underneath here, and then we're going to take our thread, paying attention to the details that are stated here on the machine. It wants us to take our thread under and over. So we're using this illustration, and the reason why I'm using this illustration is because this arrow is pointing towards the bobbin, and so we know from looking at this illustration, even though it's vague, that it's taking us to this area. And we are not going to use this one because it's pointing towards the needle area. So I'm going to take my thread, and to start the bobbin, I want to go ahead and wrap this, giving it a little bit of thread there so that they'll be able to catch and have some movement. So once I'm ready to go ahead and start the process, I'm going to make sure that I activate the bobbin by telling the machine that I want to go ahead and thread it. Put some thread on the bobbin. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and click this over to the right. Once I click this over to the right, I'm going to put my foot on the machine pedal and place some thread on there. Now I'm not going to fill this all the way up. I'm going to click this over to the left to stop it, and then since I'm done, I'm going to cut this off. Now if I want to, in reality, I want to fill this up as much as possible so that, if I'm working on a big project, it'll be good to go and I don't have to rethread. But I do always recommend that if you're working on big projects, get multiple bobbins and just add as much thread as possible if you can. And then when you are running out, you don't have to rethread your sewing machine, because this process requires for you to unthread your sewing machine just to do it. So now we're going to go into threading the actual sewing machine. So now on this section, we're going to now go ahead and thread the actual sewing machine itself. The process of threading a sewing machine requires for you to start, the starting point is always going to be on the right of the sewing machine, and basically you're going to be traveling from right to left. So the first process is us getting thread from our thread spool and working it through all the way until it gets to our needle point. So basically there's probably, on most machines, you're going to have about maybe up to 5 steps to get the thread to the needle. So what you're going to do is take this, for this machine, it requires for me to take my thread and place it underneath this plate here and come through this area. Now this plate may change in shape for some machines, so you need to be mindful of what the illustration says for you to do. Now, as a cheat sheet for everybody to know, this section right here actually is mostly the same on most machines. It may be shaped differently. Also, just to let you know, there's some new machines that are out there in the marketplace that don't have 2 spaces. It only has 1. So basically, you're going to come from this section and come straight down to your needle. However, this machine doesn't have that, and it has 2 spaces. This is more of the traditional way. So what I'm going to do is take my thread and I'm going to place it right through here. This is the first step because it's right in front of this metal piece there. And then I'm going to take my thread and go underneath. Now, in most machines, there's going to be a silver thing that runs back and forth. And when the machine is active, it moves. Okay? So what you need to do is you need to actually have thread going through this thing. If thread is not in this little silver thing that's inside your sewing machine, you're going to have struggling stitches, and your machine may not sew properly. So what I do is I take my thread from the right, and then I swing it towards the back of it and come forward. Now what I'm going to do is just take my thread and bring it down.
Bring it back?
Okay, so then the next step is there's this little silver thing that's right here. It's going to be shaped a little differently on some machines. And what happens is all you have to do is take your thread and place it right through it. What I'm going to do is put the foot down, and then when you thread your needle, the needle thread needs to go in the needle away from you. So this is how to thread the main portion of the sewing machine. So let me go and do a review. So then you'll see. So what you're going to do is go underneath this plate, come right through the space here that's right in front of it, come under the space. For the silver thing that's inside the machine, make sure it's at the highest point of the sewing machine. Then take your thread from the right of the silver thing, go around the back of it, and then come forward. Bring your thread down. Now there's this little silver thing that's right above your needle. Take your thread like this and place it right over it. Then what you're going to do is you can take a pair of scissors and cut a nice blunt tip so that it makes it easy for it to go through the needle. And then we're going to take our thread there and place it right through the needle going towards the back of it. Very important the way you place it inside the sewing machine. You can't place it any way that you want because you can have an issue with a broken needle, and these needle breaks could be a little bit more harsher metal to metal. So this spacing right here actually links up with the spacing that's right here in the foot.
Oh, okay.
And also the spacing that's right here on this conveyor belt. So when you place this inside the sewing machine, this right here should be going above. So let me show you something about the sewing machine. You see this space right here? If you place, you see this arm?
Yes.
If you place the sewing machine, the bobbin in there, and you see this, check this out here. You see how it's swinging around? We don't want that. We want this to be affixed right in here like this. And when you hear that click, you know you've placed it in there properly.
Okay.
Now another thing, how do we remove this? To remove it, there is a little trap door that swings like this.
Oh, I see.
And then all you have to do is pull it towards you.
Okay.
So now I'm going to talk about the process of adding your bobbin inside of this. Now, one of the things that's very important is that your bobbin thread is in the right direction. How do you get it in the right direction? Now, everything needs to be going over to the left. So what I do as a non-thinking, like, because when I was in fashion school, I would be like, you know, turning my bobbin back and forth like, what is the right way? So what I did is kept the bobbin like this and figured out this is how it's going to go in the sewing machine, and I want the thread to be going this way. So if I hold the bobbin this way, I know for a fact that it's going to go in there properly. So then what I do is I take the bobbin case and I place it like this, right inside the there. Now, if we take a look at this bobbin has some spacing. You have a space right here, and you also have spacing right here. This is like a little guide that's going to take you to this area. Why do you need to know that? is because you need to take this thread here and you need to slide it like this until you get to that open space. So let me do that for you one more time. So if you hold your bobbin like so, and it's coming over like this, if you hold it like this, because this is how it's going to go in the sewing machine, it has to be secure. So we're going to take this and go through this little spacing right there.
What spacing?
You see that?
I don't. Oh, right there. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then you take that and you swing this down like so, and then you come right into the space.
Swing down where?
Yeah. So let's do it together. We're just going to swing that like this.
Oh, underneath that little thing.
Yeah, until it gets to the click there. Because it needs to be in control, just like what we did with threading the sewing. So make sure you hold it like this. You see how I'm holding it? So that the bobbin doesn't fall out.
Okay.
So I hold it like this. And I get really close to my sewing machine. So you see my finger is still behind it to keep that secure. And then I go like this. And then I can remove my two fingers. And then when I make sure to secure it like the way we did prior. So now we clicked it right into place. Yes. Now we can't sew yet because we need to have this thread actually help this thread come out of this hole. How do we do that? Now, what you're going to do is you're going to do two things. You're going to have your hand holding a firm grip on the thread, not pulling. And also, you're going to be turning this wheel in this direction towards you. Okay, so let me show you what you're going to do. So let me show you what you're going to see. This thread is going to come down. It's going to appear to the right. It's going to swing over. And once it swings over to this part of the bobbin case, you're going to pull on this thread so that it comes out of this spacing right in the top of the sewing machine underneath the foot. So if you see me do this, I'm going to turn the wheel. And I'm turning it very slow. You see that thread now is appearing to the right? You see it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You see it?
Yeah, yeah.
I keep turning just a little bit. You see how it's now coming to the side there? Now I'm going to pull on the thread. And if it doesn't pull all the way, I'm just going to turn my wheel just a little bit. And you see how it pops up right out underneath there. Then what you're going to do is pull the rest of the thread out so that it's now coming out of this hole.
Okay.
And then you're going to close your door and replace this area, and then you're ready to sew. Oh. Hi, so we did it. We threaded the sewing machine together. So if you have any questions or you want to know a little bit more, go to our website at www.thekofadg.com. You see it? Right there. And just go ahead and continue to practice. The first times that you're threading your sewing machine, you're going to have some mistakes. Just go ahead and keep practicing. That's the key.